we see enterprises increasingly realizing that real-time ingestion, operation on, and analysis of data is important to running their businesses. So if you look at an industrial company, whether it's GM or Boeing or somebody making machine tools, there's several hundred million times a day that commodity markets can turn against them. All of a sudden, the price of tungsten steel is 4x what you thought it was going to be for that day. Now, you can try to lock in long-term supply contracts and so on and so forth, but people in supply chains are increasingly trying to do on-demand optimization of production and pricing, which means this volatility aggregates and rolls up the stack until GM is confronted with a tree of thousands of suppliers, each one of whom wants to optimize price and availability on the fly, which is a nightmare for a company the size of a Toyota or GM or General Electric. So, and it's not just industrial companies, it's travel, services, finance is an obvious one. They're never as real time as they would like to be. I have colleagues in the hedge fund industry who, if they could go back in time, they would. So we're investors in a company called MemSQL, which does Oracle class database operations to the tune of millions per second in an enterprise standard, very enterprise friendly fashion with seamless integration with the rest of the enterprise infrastructure. And they're selling this stuff hand over fist. A lot of folks disdained investment in this company because they weren't persuaded that real time was that important to the enterprise, and it turned out to be profoundly important. Another trend that we're seeing is that generic analytics tools, generic business intelligence platforms are of increasingly less value to the enterprise. So the enterprise increasingly wants things like deep machine learning that is specific to their supply chain or optimization or customer service problems. And we have a handful of investments in that area. You've seen probably some folks trying to do machine learning as a service. These are companies doing the step beyond that, which is solving a deep vertical enterprise problem. Another thing that we're seeing in the enterprise is correlated to that second example that I gave, which is while departments may still be buying generic tools, Jive or now Microsoft Yammer, to stitch together their workers and the way that they operate, they're increasingly realizing that without both real time, to come back to my first point, and to my second point, vertical analytics on how their workers are engaging with each other on the actual data that's directly relevant to that enterprise, that they're not getting a lot of collaboration value. So by way of example, in a drug company, just having a Yammer stream about I'm looking at different compounds is not that interesting. What's more interesting is to say, we ran an experiment, this compound killed all the mice in the room and ate through the steel doors. Probably a bad idea. Has anybody ever stabilized this compound? And get an answer not just from within that enterprise, but within any portion of that enterprise's trusted ecosystem that's not a direct rival. And then to get a history of all uses of that compound and references to outside academics who've done a good job with that and so on and so forth, all with a single click, or maybe with a voice command on your phone. And I would say the top of that stack is that doing traditional software or even doing very well-groomed apps on a mobile device is turning out to be a fail in the enterprise, in our opinion, because the complexity of the information behind that device. So if you think of your iPhone as a glass window, small glass window, into a vast hall of unimaginably complex churning information, that's an inadequate window. That's an inadequate lens. So again, deep machine learning, predictive analytics on what you should see as a consumer of information that's most relevant, that's most valuable to you, whether it's by speech or text, is something that enterprises are increasingly demanding. And that's more of a unitary relationship between the entire sea of enterprise information and your needs, not necessarily how you interact with your colleagues. So there are a ton of interesting companies out there doing that. Some we hope are going to be in our portfolio. Some other very smart guys in the VC community are beginning to invest in this area. So either we're onto the right thing, or we're completely misguided. But I'm hoping it's the former.